This past Wednesday was the feast of Mary Magdalene. So I thought that we could take a little pause from Matthew's gospel and give Mary Magdalene some well-deserved attention. The subject of Mary Magdalene is very personal to me. She has been transformational to my understanding of the church, my faith, and what Jesus' teaching was all about. My study of her has made me sad, angry, joyful, blessed, and at times overwhelmed. And I am humbled that I have the opportunity to give voice to her story. Who was Mary Magdalene? In the words of the philosopher Ken Wilber, she was an apostolic leader, a feminine archetype, a flesh and blood human being, beloved, teacher, spiritual master. But that's not how most of us think of her, is it? We Christians have absorbed most of what we know about Mary Magdalene through the filter of tradition and liturgy, specifically the readings that are part of the lectionary and read at Mass on Sundays and holy days and weekdays. I didn't realize until recently that the lectionary quietly omits many parts of the Gospels, especially where Mary Magdalene and other women have a prominent role. And I would expect that from 2nd and 3rd century church leaders, because it isn't fair to impose our 21st century sensibilities and culture on those who lived 2,000 years ago. But it devastated me to learn that it was also done in the 20th and 21st centuries. The last part of the gospel that we read today is not part of any Easter gospel. And it is only read on Mary Magdalene's feast day, which only was raised to a feast in 2016, and only if it falls on a weekday and on the Tuesday of Easter week. The passage in Matthew about the burial of Jesus that speaks of Magdalene's being there at the foot of the cross is never read at Mass. I can go on and on. It's as if she's being airbrushed from church history. Yet all 4 Gospels identify Mary Magdalene as having been the first witness to the resurrection, and she is singled out by name in this role. She is the first to see the risen Christ. She is the one who commissions the others to go out and spread the news of Jesus' resurrection, a role that earned her the title, the Apostle to the Apostles. All 4 Gospels directly mention or allude to the fact that Mary Magdalene is present at the crucifixion as well as the burial. When all the male apostles fled, she remained with him. She did not betray him or deny her commitment to him. She demonstrated either the deepest human love or the highest spiritual understanding of his teaching, or both. And although she is not part of the all-male 12, make no mistake, the Gospels place her firmly within his inner circle. This suggests that in the early Christian communities, the stature of Mary Magdalene was of the highest magnitude. But early church leaders sought to downplay her influence by portraying her as a sinner, a prostitute. Scholars argue that because Jesus empowered women to such an extent early in his ministry, it made some of the men who would become our early church leaders very uncomfortable. So even today, we tend to hear the Gospels and the story of our faith through a filter of nearly 2 millennia of ecclesial patriarchy. We assume through the filter of what we hear on Sundays that Jesus came to found a church, institute its most important sacrament at the Last Supper, and appoint his male-only disciples to be its apostles and priests. Through this filter, Mary Magdalene shrinks to a very minor player. But she has a huge role to fill. And the effort to diminish it, I believe, changes what we believe the good news is and what being a Christian is all about. She is the archetype of conscious love, a love that transcends time and space, and even death. This kind of love is at the heart of a transformational Christian journey. And Mary Magdalene beautifully embodies it. A spiritual love so deep and selfless as to be nearly incomprehensible. This is what the message of Jesus Christ is all about. She was the one who got it. She was the one who could walk the talk. So why is the unwavering, steady witness of Mary Magdalene not a pivotal part of the liturgies of Holy Week in the church? How would it change our understanding of the Paschal mystery if we emphasize the story of Mary's love, presence, understanding, tenderness, and courage? Surely this story is just as present in the Gospels as the one of betrayal and denial and Jesus dying alone. How would this change our attitude about Jesus's passion, death, and resurrection? How might it change how we approach the holiest of weeks? How would it change our feelings about ourselves, about women in the church, about the fundamental importance of steadfast love on our spiritual path? And why? Why is the apostle to the apostles not an apostle herself? When we need an example of selfless, conscious love, it's Mary Magdalene who shows us the way. If we could just hold on to who she is and what she stands for in our faith story, we may come to see what Christianity really is, or should have been, and perhaps can still become.